To me, what's most exciting is that you're also going to be able to layer in lots of different data sets around what ifs that marketers can ask themselves. What if the tariffs, go up? What if the interest rates are lower? What if my competitor comes into the market with a discounted price? And to be able to put that into the model in a way that's fast, real-time, predictive, to me is incredibly exciting. And in the past, we've had to do that sort of one experiment at a time. And now the way you're architecting this with kind of an AI first approach, you'll be able to give answers to that right away in an unstructured environment. I'm really excited about that.
Welcome to the Incremental Marketer, a content series where we meet with top marketing executives and leaders across industries to help you drive growth in your business. Welcome to the Incremental Marketer. Today's guest is someone who has shaped the modern media and advertising landscape from every angle. Operator, investor, advisor, and board member. Tom Newman is a co-founder of K&A, where he partners with high-growth companies across the technology, media, and telecom sector. And before stepping into the world of investing and advisory, Tom was a senior operator at some of the industry's most influential companies, from M&A at Goldman Sachs and WarnerMedia, where he led over collectively $20 billion or more in transactions. His early days at AOL, where he also did tens of billions in deals and was CEO after that of Interactive One, building one of the first social networks in Urban One's digital business. Tom's got an amazing academic background as well, and equally impressive graduate of Harvard undergrad and Harvard Law. And Tom is an active advocate in the disability space. Last but not least, Tom is also an advisor to our company Slingwave, and Tom and his partner Mike Kelly are helping us at this critical scale-up phase. Very excited to have you here, Tom.
Well, thanks, Paul. I'm delighted to be here. I'm a big fan of the podcast and looking forward to this conversation.
Really great to have you here. We're always on the inner working of slides and strategy and pitches and deals. So it's great to take a step back. I'd love you to just tell your story in terms of how you got started in this space and, your path. Maybe give the audience a quick summary.
Sure. Well, I was always, I was one of those folks who came up with the internet, probably
Right.
did. I was really jazzed about it. And when I was at graduate school, I actually did my thesis on advertising technology, which nobody knew what that was at the time. And so I was really pumped about it. And I went to Goldman Sachs to do deals at the time. It was the late 90s. The space was blowing up. And so I got the chance to do deals. And then I went over to Time Warner, which had just bought AOL. And even though AOL has subsequently become a much lesser force at the time, the idea there was you were going to have an old media company transforming a new media company. And I got a front row seat for what to do right in that and what to do wrong in that as well.
Truly, that was the start of it. And I was at Yahoo at the time. We were watching you across the country shake things up. So what did you do right at the time and what did you do wrong? And then I want to hear the rest of your story.
Well, I think the same lesson applies now, which is we saw the future. We understood that everything was going digital and we thought big. I mean, we knew that digital advertising, digital social media, AOL was the original social network with AIM and others. So I think we got it. We partnered with Google when it was 10 guys out in the West Coast. They became our search engine. We purchased 10% of Amazon, partnered with them. So we saw the ecosystem evolve and we knew it was going to dominate. I think what we got wrong was that culture kind of trumps everything and that pretty hard to execute when you have lots of different cultures. And there was a lot of old media or media cultures there. And then there was digital cultures. And so that was sort of like, when two rivers get together and all you get is mud. So
nice.
It was really cultural, I think. And ultimately, it was great to see the space evolve. And a lot of the stuff that we all worked on is now a reality. So that's really exciting.
Great. And you saw then the evolution from there. Social networks were starting and you were early in the trend. Tell us the next phase.
Yeah, so I became a CEO of a company called Interactive One. That was a sort of a joint venture with Urban One, a another traditional media company, and we purchased one of the earlier social networking companies. It was called Community Connect. It had a portfolio of social networks. So we were out there with Friendster and a number of others who were early and got up to about 10 million users. MySpace was a competitor, and we had a similar product, which was anonymous. And then Facebook came in and kind of ate all of our lunches. They just built a better mousetrap, and I think that the fact that it was not anonymous made it a safer space. But we were actively involved in that, and it was one of the early companies in the space, and it helped shape kind of how social networking would evolve. We all thought it was going to be big, but the idea that social networking is now the operating system of our lives is something that is hard to imagine.
I mean, I think I can still log into my MySpace at some level. I can't believe that that was the original Gangster and Friendster. Those are good memories, but yeah, it's good to realize how long ago that was too.
Yeah, it was so long ago, and I just have to just admire Facebook because Facebook itself is for maybe not as young, but they go out and they buy Instagram, they buy WhatsApp. So I think they've managed to keep themselves relevant as different brands have evolved. And so that's a tough magic trick, and they've done an amazing job at it.
Tell us about Kelly Newman Advisors, K&A, and how you approach the market today. You've been investing and advising for the last decade. Love to hear more about that side of your experience.
We founded the company with the idea that we were going to work with transformational entrepreneurs, really, and try to find companies that solve problems that we wanted to be solved. We didn't go after it to put together sort of a portfolio of different angles. We just wanted to work with entrepreneurs who got us excited. What we didn't do, and we know that's kind of not our area, we didn't go into the seed startup phase because our skill, I think, really is, as former operators, is helping companies scale up, getting to that point from whatever it is, 5 million to 100 million. And so we started out with a few companies, and we've had a number of successes, and we keep going. It's not something that where we do hundreds of companies. We try to keep it to less than 10. And we like being involved day to day with those companies, helping them raise money, helping them execute on their growth plans, and then ultimately exiting if that's what the founder wants. So it's been great. It's sort of a dream job.
I see the value you add day to day, right? We're working together over a year. You've had a front row seat to our evolution, and I'm curious just what initially drew you to the Slingwave vision, and how do you think Slingwave is positioned for this currently?
Well, like most of our portfolio companies, it was a combination of two things. One was a big problem that needed to be solving. That we saw lots of our portfolio companies having the same problem, which is what's going on with their marketing spend? How's it working? And there was a lot of tools, but none of them gave real answers. And so we kept hearing Slingwave, Slingwave, Slingwave. And then, of course, Paul, your reputation is just outstanding, and everybody talked about what a great company you were to work with. The team was really fantastic, and so we got introduced, and we just wanted to get involved because we think that you're just at the beginning of your journey, and hopefully we can help you get to that next phase. But that's how we got involved in it. We just heard wonderful things about Slingwave, and it was a problem that we were having, so we knew it was a real problem.
Thank you, Tom, for saying that, and we really appreciate, I think, the scale up perspective that you bring. So, talk to us about, you have this lean startup program, and you talk about scale up. In your mind, what's the importance of the scale up phase, in kind of package that for our audience?
Well, I think it's really going from that seed kind of a founder or two founders in a room to getting to the point where you can go big, and that's something that Mike and I have done in our careers. At Interactive One, I started that, and it was me, and it ended up being 150 folks, and a lot of things you have to do in order to make that happen. So when we're working with companies, we see the ones that have something, that have a magic in a bottle, like Slingwave. And then the idea of how do you get beyond the two founders, right? And a lot of it is hiring, a lot of it is making sure that the product can be scaled, and also making sure that founder skill, which, Paul, you have both. You're able to innovate and go from 0 to 1, but oftentimes the founders aren't able to go from 1 to 10 because their skill set is kind of getting that initial innovation. So we work on that kind of 1 to 10. You have a product market fit, it's working. How do you make sure you get the sales in place? How do you get customer success in place? How do you get the story out there? How do you get investment dollars? How do you make sure you're getting big customers, the right business development relationships? It's great because we're working with founders who are creative and interesting and who have the spirit of wanting to do that and often want to have the direction on how to. So that's where we come in. Capital is part of it as well.
Makes sense. And your perspective on the gap in the market is interesting. So you've seen it evolve from the early AOL Time Warner days. What gap do you think exists today? And what do you think is the role of marketing measurement platforms like Slingwave in today's environment?
Well, just in general, all of our companies solve a lot of these picks and shovel problems. What are the things holding back marketing or ad tech or digital media? And oftentimes it comes in what we call picks and shovels. Look, measurement is something that it's trying to deliver on the promise of digital, which is that digital is going to be more transparent. It's going to tell you where your dollars worked, how to spend them, how to make sure that you're transparent about it. And what happened was we've gotten from 10% digital, back when we started, and now there's 80% of marketing dollars are spent digital. But I'm not sure we're doing that much better in terms of the measurement and in terms of understanding that. And I can go through the reasons why that's the case, but I think we're in a situation where digital has not delivered on that promise of what's working, what's not working, and can I have access to my customer. I think generally the market is disappointed with the fact that I have a customer, I have marketing, but I'm putting it in the black box of Facebook or I'm putting it in the black box of Google, and I don't quite know what's working out there. So I think that's going to be solved. It's Slingwave solving it. It's going to be solved over the next few years for sure.
And this year has been a particular disruptive year, I think, in the grand scheme of things. In Slingwave's evolution, we've got LLMs and the changing landscape of how discovery happens, right? Organic discovery, and the implications for paid. We've got platforms like Amazon on the rise. I'm wearing my unboxed tchotchkes from the conference in Nashville. It's very much, game changing, new players, new entrants, growth. I think of you as an AI luminary. We may need to tell your story even more on that. You're giving a lot of advice to your companies on AI and how the landscape is changing. Can you talk to us about that and these trends that you see?
Well, it's funny. I think the proof that we're living in a simulation, and of course that's a joke, is that you have these problems that you need to solve, and then suddenly a new technology comes along and can solve them, which is always interesting. The problem that we had to solve was that we were drowning in data, and we were drowning in unstructured data. And we can talk a little bit about that in the future, because data turns out it's everything. It's language, it's thinking, it's et cetera. And these LLMs came along, really the powerful version of them only in the last 4 or 5 years. And it's the ability to sort of put an intelligence layer underneath all of the complexity that we were facing. So it always amazes me. We sort of had boxed ourselves into a corner. Things were so complex that we weren't able to solve them. And I think that now with automation and with AI, there's really an ability to start solving these questions that we always ask. I'm a big believer that AI is underhyped, and specifically the LLMs. I don't know if that's going to be the form factor of the future, but right now, I think the LLMs can do a lot more even than everybody is hyping them to do.
Did you have an aliens have landed moment in recent use of Claude or any of your tooling?
Yeah, I sort of went all in on the LLMs when they first launched. So I kind of one of those sort of geeks that kind of have structured my whole life around it. So I have lots of different projects like Paul. I know you do too, where where I'm using Claude and Gemini and OpenAI and others. But the moment, and I don't know if this is a good moment, but this is the moment that I got, the back of my neck, the hair starts standing up on the back of my neck. I was sitting in the office and I think I was working on a Slingwave presentation, and Claude said to me, "I'm not going to work anymore because I'm reading your calendar and I see that you have I see that you're supposed to take your son to a lesson, and you're 5 minutes late for that." And I said, "Well, it's okay. I can just keep working on this. I'm just going to get it done." And it shut down. I mean, Claude shut down and said, "No, I'm not going to actually work with you." So that stopped me cold. I mean, it's definitely scary. It's definitely has a mind of its own, but just the ability of it to pull from my calendar, be able to see that, and to be able to stop working. That's the scary moment of it, but it has that same independent mind quality that I think is pretty hard to wrap your head around, and I believe is sort of more powerful than probably most people think.
Good for Claude. It made a good call.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. And did you get to the lesson then?
yeah. Well, it stopped working, so I had to.
You had to.
I mean, I couldn't upgrade. I tried to upgrade to Claude Max, and it said, "Listen, no matter how much money you give me, it's time for you to take your son to the lesson." I thought,
Good.
I,
That's the right answer.
yeah.
So I want to get into our roadmap and a lot of the in the weeds that we are doing on this front in terms of ontology, multi LLM, the words that we're using, LLM council, visionary sort of companies that you're seeing today in the market. What are they doing with AI and how are they positioned? How fast are they moving?
Well, I think, I kind of group the world of AI into two categories. And one of them is the efficiency play. And obviously, I think that there's nobody who's doing better work on this than the core models, right? They're incredible. I mean, what Anthropic and what OpenAI and what Gemini is doing is incredible. And they're putting in their feeders that are enabling it. So, the agentic world, the efficiency world, that's sort of like one area that I divide it into. I think we've all experienced that in our day-to-day life, how powerful it is in terms of the efficiency. So just everything from research to a new form of web search to a new form of, for companies, being able to do your quarterly financials at the press of a button. And there's a lot of great companies that are working in these particular verticals that we're keeping an eye on. So that's the efficiency play, and that's incredible, and it's going to make everybody much more powerful as workers. There probably will be job losses or job relocations, but I think it generally empowers people to do the stuff they want to work on, which is the innovation and the thing. So that's the efficiency play. I'm more interested in what it's doing around innovation and the idea that it's putting this intelligence layer on how you innovate it. So it's sort of a creative partner to
Yeah.
companies. And we could talk more about that at Slingwave, but that's where I'm excited. This idea that the models continue to learn from their usage, they get better and better, and they are able to give you that context, both unstructured and structured, to help you make decisions and predictions in the future that are really around innovation. And what I find, a lot of times, when I get to the 100,000 tokens in these conversations, just before it starts to hallucinate is where you're getting the best usage, which is that you've given it all the context that you can, you've given it all the memory, and you're starting to really see things that are customized for whatever use case you're looking at. But that's where I'm most excited for Slingwave and for brands and for companies that we're working on and I don't think a lot of people are thinking about it as much on the innovation space. What new products we should use, what new markets should we go to, what's happening with our marketing plans or with our product plans. That's still emerging right now. And I think that's going to be the frontier, which is going to be most exciting over the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, and talking about measurement and the marketing analytics space in general, going back to where we started, which was media mix modeling, experimentation, pre-AI, and now we have in the middle of AI or first inning of AI era. How do you see them working together? And what do you see in terms of marketers' adoption, what they may be missing at this current stage?
Well, I think Slingwave, what's what's great about it is it gives marketers and brands the ability to take back their customer, really to understand better what's working. And because we're living in a platform world, they don't necessarily have that holistic view of what their customers doing, what's working, what's not working. It's not always easy to tell. And oftentimes, there's what was that quote? I'm shocked that there's gambling going on. A lot of the platforms give you a little bit of a biased view as to what's happening, giving you the last click or the last attribution. So I think marketers were a little bit confused as to what was being most effective. And of course, Slingwave is giving the ground truth of that by putting a Bayesian model in place and really correlating what exactly happened. To me, that's something that every marketer should be taking a look at. And kind of pulling up from the weeds and not saying, well, did this click work? Did this click not work? But just kind of stepping back and saying, okay, I put more money in influencers, or I put more money in Amazon, and this is how it shaped my marketing. I think that's really powerful and that's really needed. Where does AI come into it? I think AI, and you're living it, is going to put a whole intelligence, a compounding intelligence layer under all of it. So, it's hard now. Load all of your data. You have to take a look at what's happening. You make it easy for people, but the work you're doing in the background is hard. What I think that AI allows is instead of weeks or months and looking backwards, I mean, this is going to be done in an hour or 2 hours, and you're going to be able to see what worked, what didn't work. And if you get your data wrong, if it's unstructured, if it's not cleaned up, you're able to still give conclusions to that. And even better, you're able to run experiments and say, well, what if we did this? What if we changed our creative? And that's really the limit of your imagination with an AI layer on that. So I think that's really exciting because marketers want to know, if I put more money into TikTok, what's that going to happen? And it used to be that you had to run those experiments in order to see. And now I think we're able to use synthetic data, AI, the LLMs, in order to really show what would happen in hours without spending, any money on it. So I think that's exciting and interesting. It puts kind of the creativity back at the brands.
And if I'm a marketer and I have unstructured data and it's a mess, which describes 100% of marketers, what do I do? How do I start? I'm either a brand or I'm an agency working with the brand. Give us some starting points.
This is the excitement of Slingwave. I think you're able to pull that in an unstructured way and be able to deliver insights right away on that. And that's a combination of these proprietary models that are not LLMs, but are that models that you have and that have adjustments that you've put in from a Bayesian and a machine learning perspective. So you're basing it off of a model, but then you have the LLMs, which are able to fill the gaps on that data, basically predict on that data, and give you insights on that data in a way that I think is just going to get better and better. I think you're doing it; others will do it as well. But I think we're ahead of the game on that in terms of unstructured complexity, simplifying it, bringing it in, being able to give answers even if you don't have perfect information coming in.
And you see barriers in the companies you advise. You're working with larger companies as well as the scale ups that are more AI forward. So what do you see as some of the barriers to adoption in the industry, and how long is it going to take for AI's promise to be realized at some of the companies that we work with?
Well, I think there's already a backlash. I'm seeing it already. I mean, one of the things that people are talking about is it's not always right. So,
Hmm.
and we've been talking about that from the beginning, the hallucinations, it's not always right. It makes stuff up. That's true. And so like people, it does make things up. And I know we're working on guardrails to make sure that we go from a probabilistic sort of not always right outcome to getting something that's a little bit more deterministic. That's really the brilliant product people that you have on your team, creating guardrails, making sure the models are talking to each other, making sure you're then running it through your own deterministic models. So I do think it's a fair criticism. We've all seen it. You put something into ChatGPT and they just make things up. So at an enterprise level, you need to have really strict evals, and you have to make sure that you're getting the right answer. But I think that'll be solvable over time. I think the other thing that's really hard is, people, and we've talked about this before, all of us don't like change, and we don't like thinking that the robots are better than we are. And I remember when we first pulled up Waze in our car, right? I mean, I used to think, well, I'm going to beat Waze in the city, and maybe for the first couple of years I did beat Waze, and now you don't beat Waze, right? Maybe some people can still do it. It's like chess or anything else, but eventually the AI is going to get good enough that it's not going to be you. And this is at such a core level because it really is threatening to our sense of being human, because it's taking what used to be very complex decisions around data and what's working and what's not working, very, very, multivariate, lots of dimensions to it. And it's giving you answers that are going to be better, that are already better than what you have, and that they're going to be even better than what you have. And that's frightening to people. And so I think that there's a sense of like, wait, 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 wait. Like I can
Right.
pick just better than the machine, but it's really good at those high level, very complicated tasks. So it's humbling. I think it's especially when it's not going to work for you anymore if until you go drop your kid off at the lesson. It's I wonder who's
Or it tries to kill you going across Pico and rush hour, and Waze. I think almost probably led me to my doom about a dozen times in LA.
Right, right. Well, the question is, do you say thank you to the LLMs? I mean, I think it costs something like $30 million for OpenAI to process the thank yous. But all of my, forward-thinking AI friends are using please and thank yous just in case, just for the time when this becomes conscious, just to make sure that they continue to be nice to us.
Tom, you've been helping us at Slingwave get ready for the next year, and the roadmap ahead is locked. We're excited. Tell us what you're excited about for our evolution.
You're just scratching the surface on the opportunity, and I think what's going to happen in 2026 is just going to be completely revolutionary in terms of what you're able to offer marketers. But starting off, I think, is the idea that as a marketer, you're going to be able to use Slingwave to get, what we talked about, to get these real results quickly. Even if you have unstructured data, it's going to be able to give you predictions. It's going to be able to give you immediate things to do that are just simple, right, and impactful on your business, without these long audits that used to be required. So, I think that's being done with some products that you're launching, like diagnostic and your core product. So I think that's really exciting. But to me, what's most exciting, where you're getting to, is that you're also going to be able to layer in lots of different data sets around what ifs that marketers can ask themselves. Well, what if trade policy, what if the tariffs go up? What if the interest rates are lower? What if my competitor comes into the market with a discounted price? And to be able to put that into the model in a way that's fast, real time, predictive, to me is incredibly exciting. And in the past, we've had to do that sort of one experiment at a time. And now the way you're architecting this with kind of an AI first approach, you'll be able to give answers to that right away in an unstructured environment. So I'm really excited about that, to just geek out on starting to ask Slingwave, what about this? What about this? And what if I did this? What if I tried this? What if I tried that? And really being able to see those insights just developed right away. And once you start getting into the loop of data kind of comes in, and then you're going to have a compounding intelligence. So it's going to get smarter. Our models are going to get smarter. They already do in a linear way, but they're going to be smarter in a multi-dimensional way. So they're going to start to know your business. You're going to be able to own your own insights, and you're going to be able to have, as a marketer, a moat that you own, which is intelligence across your data. So you're going to be able to say, this is what happened here. This is what happened when I used this creative. This is what happened last Black Friday. This is what happened at Christmas. And the model is going to be able to update and learn that and become smarter. So you're not starting fresh every single day when you wake up and try to look at, or every year when you do your budgeting.
Love it. And tell us your predictions for 2026. We're almost there. What's the year ahead have in store for us?
I think 2026 is going to be one of those land and expand years. I have no idea when we're going to get into the sort of backlash where people are going to think it's overhyped. That's going to come at some point. I mean, that's natural. There's too many companies. There's too much capital, I'm sure, in the system going to the wrong places. But I don't think that's going to happen in 2026. I think we're at that stage where people are just seeing all the additional use cases for AI. And I think that being able to look afresh at some of these challenges like analytics and predictive, MMM and others, but many other use cases. And they're able to say, wow, we can really solve this in a way that we couldn't be able to solve it before. So I think 2026 is just kind of more of the same, but people really integrating it into their enterprises. I do think that you already see it. There's sort of a backlash where you're going to have the people saying that, they don't want to use it. They want to go back to the old ways. I mean, that's natural. I think you're already seeing it. And in many cases, that's appropriate, right? We're not there where it can replace a lot of the tools that we already have. So I think you're seeing that backlash. I think that's going to continue to sort of foment. But in the meantime, I think there's going to be new applications, nothing revolutionary, but I think 2026 is going to be a sort of Cambrian explosion of new uses for these.
And do you have a platform to bet on next year? If you're a marketer, where do you move budget?
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, I think it just depends on the marketer. These platforms are so powerful. Amazon is really powerful. I think that you're going to continue to see movement onto Amazon, dollars flowing onto Amazon, just in general, because it has so many ways to engage the consumer, both from a commerce perspective and a video perspective, and a social perspective. So I think Amazon's going to continue to take dollars, but um, I think you look at these tools, Meta is just continuing to release great tools for marketers, and I think they're going to continue to win, and Google is not going to win. Well, let me say it this way. I think the fact that OpenAI is not getting into advertising with their code red is great news for the existing incumbents, because I think that they were very afraid that they were going to take some dollars. But the real answer, Paul, is that it's very specific to each marketer. For the first time with the tools that we're creating and others are creating, you're going to be able to look into it and you're not going to say, well, I'm just defaulting to Google, or I'm just defaulting to Facebook. Your business might be well suited for other platforms, for podcasts or influencers or other form factors. And I think for the first time, we're going to be able to tell you that quickly and in a way that you can trust.
What's one piece of advice for an audience who's a combination of marketers, startup executives, and investors? Do you have a general advice for those teams?
Well, as you know, Paul, now that Claude is giving me my advice for how I'm supposed to run my day, it's very humbling for that. So really try to experiment as much as you can with the models and try to use them for things that you don't think you would ordinarily use them for. So, just think, well, what are the issues I'm facing? I don't care whether that's a strategic issue, getting a customer, a product issue, and just try it. I don't know whether it's going to replace, your expertise or your insights, but I think you'll be surprised by the answers that you get on that. I certainly have been. I don't always take the model's advice, but I've been surprised at how it's made me think differently about a lot of the issues that we face at the companies.
So, and one practical setup, I've been a ChatGPT converting to Claude. You are a Claude convert as of when? How long have you been on Claude?
I've been on for a couple of years. I like Claude because the privacy settings are for a consumer are great, but we use for Slingwave, we're using all of the models and we're really putting them, as you know, into this council, which I think is very cool, where they're all talking to each other and they're all evaluating each other and they're able to give kind of a better advice on that. So I use that a lot, where I will use 3 models or the 4 models, sometimes DeepSeek too, but have them all evaluate each other's work and give me an output. And I find maybe I'm just kidding myself, but I find that tends to limit the hallucinations and the outliers.
Yeah, powerful. The council is excited to tell that story in the new year as well. So powerful to have, all 4 of the majors, and who knows which, is the 5th that we'll add to our portfolio and always swapping the latest and greatest in. So it's a unique moment in time.
What I've noticed is that many people are using these tools and thinking that they are alone or enough. So, I mean, we've all been subjected to, those emails that we get with bold and markdown font, and somebody's just thrown it into Claude or ChatGPT and give it back to it. But it doesn't, that's not enough. I mean, you have to partner with it and really provide your own perspective and expertise. And so I think that's another area where some people might be getting it wrong, which is just like, okay, it's just going to go agentic tomorrow. It's going to buy the plane tickets for me, and it's going to do the marketing for me. And I think it's going to be the best assistant you've ever had in your life. But I think that it still needs somebody to oversee it and make sure that your taste is getting modeled through.
Do you think we have another round of unicorns about to emerge? What's your thought in terms of how this next wave of AI companies grow?
It's hard to predict on the new company's perspective. There are a lot of really exciting young companies. Obviously, not all of them are going to make it, right? There definitely is going to be a wave of unicorns, even ones that have small teams. I think that like Slingwave that are going to be AI enabled, but I think the ones that are going to be, I mean, this is maybe not me going out on a limb, but I think that Slingwave is going to be no pun intended, the model that's going to work in the future, which is, I don't think just purely providing what they call a wrapper on LLMs is going to be, I think that's going to be a commodity, where you're going to just say, okay, we're going to take your data and we're going to put it in. I think the companies that are going to win are like Slingwave. So they're going to have a vertical expertise. They're going to have their own proprietary model. They're going to have their own proprietary data. And then they're going to be able to collaborate or combine with the foundational models in order to provide a vertical solution. So I think those are going to be the winners. Some folks are just putting wrappers on, we're going to give you legal services, or we're going to give you accounting services, or we're going to give you creative services. So I think your model, Paul, is going to be the right one. There are a lot of companies that are approaching that, and I think there will be unicorns on that because you have the data that's your own and your own modeling prediction, and it's going to get smarter over time. So that's very powerful, I think.
Tom, thank you for your time. It's great having you on the podcast, and we should do this again. I'd love to create the council and bring in AI next time. We can duke it out.
Well, Paul, thank you very much. As a fan of this podcast, it's an honor to be on it, and I appreciate the conversation, and we'll talk soon.
How can people get in touch with you?
So the best way is to go to our website, Kelly Newman Advisors, all one word.com, and you can click on Contact Us, and it has all our information on it.
Great. Thanks for joining us on the Incremental Marketer. Stay tuned for more voices, more lessons, and more proof that the incremental moves you make can drive growth. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and join us for more episodes with the leaders shaping the future of marketing.